Welcome back to Between the Lines. We're continuing our 8-week energy series, and tonight we're going to look at education, preparation, jobs. We got people building centrifuges, building plants. We need 2,000 construction jobs. We need technical jobs. Where are they going to come from? What kind of jobs do we need? So this week we look at a different aspect of the nuclear energy business in East Tennessee. How are we going to get people trained? What kind of jobs do they need? Where are they at? We know in West Oak Ridge we're going to need at least 300 or 400 technical, another large construction for different construction and different things that are going on. So we've had different pieces of the program, and this is another piece. And today we're going to talk about a brand new program. I'm not sure we'll get into that, but it is the only program in the East Tennessee footprint that delivers a 2-year nuclear engineering associate program. And the director of that program is with us today, right? Joe Stainback.
Yes.
Help me again with the badge.
Joe Stainback.
Stainback, S-T-A in the back. There it is, folks. Brad's helping me again, and I appreciate it. But this is going to be a good show, an important show. We need to know, I want you to know what kind of academic opportunities are open to your kids that are interested. Good jobs, 2-year program, not 4, 5, or 6. It creates a different kind of opportunity. Welcome, Joe. I'm glad you're here. Joe has 30 years experience in different. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
Half of that in the city, and half of that was working tobacco farms down in South.
If you work at a tobacco farm, you can do anything.
Yeah, that's right. It gave me a lot of soft skills there, that's for sure, in working tobacco. So I grew up in that region and went to school at Old Dominion University in Norfolk.
Well, yeah, my buddy played baseball there.
And then went directly to work for Babcock & Wilcox, which eventually changed their name to BWXT. Yeah. Spent my entire career, 30 years with them, 20 years building nuclear reactors for the Navy, and then
were you in the Navy?
No, I was not.
Okay, you did as a contractor. I got it.
Did as a contractor, but the rigor, Alan, back then was military-like. Admiral Rickover started that facility. It was, white shirts, ties every day, and it did something to me to pay attention to details, accountability, commitment, and we try to put that in the classroom. And so the last 10 years of BWXT was with Watchwell National Security Complex. I did a lot of various jobs there. Really proud of my work that I did for BWXT at Y12. And then I retired and went on to the University of Tennessee, worked for Nuclear Engineering Department, did a lot of work in nuclear nonproliferation, traveled all around the world a lot, helping countries bring up nuclear programs and talking mainly in the area of personnel security, prevention of espionage, and specifically concentrated in that area. And then I've been a consultant, polygraph examiner for the last 6 years until Roane State came along and says, hey, would you start a 2-year program in nuclear? And I was right on it. It's the right thing to do, and it's been completely awesome within the last year and a half or so. And
this is all contained to the Oak Ridge campus. A lot of Oak Ridge High School students, a lot of different people that have STEM backgrounds.
That's right.
Really well prepared to go into this. When did the program first initiate classes?
So we're going to have our first cohort, Alan, that started the fall of 24. They took a lot of the prerequisite course, the safety course, and then I got the students for their first nuclear course this past spring.
Okay.
The first cohort is 9 students. Every one of them are completely awesome. They did well. We organized the class to look like UT Nuclear Engineering's first course, NE 200. In fact, I consider my first course better than UT NE's. I would say that to UT, and they know that, and it's because we have a hands-on lab, and it's 4 hours. Not only are we getting the curriculum in, but we're having the students stick their hands in glove boxes, working with simulated nuclear materials, working with radiation detection equipment, having their hands on that, and getting the feel for working in the shop.
That's kind of a forensic feel to it. I mean, it's really cool stuff that's working in the lab. It's my job in life to convince young folks, starting in the middle school, maybe even younger, through the high school, that working in radiological and nuclear areas is relatively safe as long as you adhere to procedures and you do all the things that you're supposed to do. And that's true in so many areas. But that is
exactly.
Yeah. But that's I mean, and to be a part of the mission, and no matter what anyone
Right.
thinks, that's part of the mission. You've given your life to the mission, and you know what I'm saying. So you get how many students? Do you have a limit on how many students can get into each year's program?
So we'll have a natural progression at Roane State, which is, we'll limit the number of students to 15
Okay.
per cohort, but we'll open up different sections, and so we
And a
can
cohort
multiply.
would be the group starting in any given fall.
That's right.
2 cohorts at a time, okay, in the program.
Right, and I said that kind of wrong. So a cohort could be 15 students, but we'll branch out horizontally and add the different more sections if the students get more. So we could have actually a lot more students in the second cohort if we need to, by opening up 2 courses at different times, so that we can limit the classroom and have that good teacher to student ratio.
Is there additional cost to the program beyond what we would normally call free college from hopes and promises and everything, or would it fall under the same category? I know you have lab fees, but I mean...
Actually, it's a little opposite than that. We have some grant funding that the first cohort's paying for. That will eventually run out. But right now, if students are interested, we'll make sure that we go through the financial aid process, make sure we capitalize on the Tennessee incentives, but we do have some funding there from some of our grants to pay for a lot of things. So
are there
no
additional,
extra,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, are there additional costs
No.
to be, to the university, to the
school,
to the college, community college, to put them through this program that
No,
would
sir.
say an English program or a nursing program?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's no additional
Because you got
cost.
grant money to cover most of the lab
That's
costs.
right. That's right. A lot.
A nuclear, even if it's even if you're just mimicking some of those real situations, that can be expensive. Glove
It
boxes.
can be, and maintenance thereof, because these are working glove boxes. You have to have, nitrogen bottles. You got to exchange them. You've got things break. So you'll have an ongoing cost within the lab to maintain the equipment. And also radioactive sources have half-lives, Alan, so you'll bring in radioactive sources, do the radiation measurements, and then over time we'll have to replace those as well. So there's some ongoing costs we'll have to deal with.
Well, you got 9 students. Where did they come from?
Great question. My demographics of my 9 students couldn't be any more perfect. So I've got the traditional students coming out of high school. I got 2 individuals who are mid-career. One's working at Ornell. The other one is mid-career to reskill herself to better her career. And then I have also a high school student. It's called middle college, which means he will graduate. If everything goes to plan, he'll graduate high school and the nuclear program at the same time.
Wow.
And so that demographic of my students, yep, exactly. So he's working real hard, and no issues with the program so far, and we'll make sure that he's successful.
My father spent 35 years at Ornell from the Manhattan Project in 43 on until his death. Fell through his office door, 61 years old. So he was there. He gave his life to that. But my question would be, knowing a little bit about radioactivity, knowing a little bit about all of the different projects and radioisotopes and all the things that he worked in, et cetera, what kind of entry-level jobs can these individuals that come through your program, what are you working with the plants to fill? Like, what are they telling you? We need more of this, we need more of that. How does that shake out?
So it's a wide aperture, Alan. We've designed this program that it's nuclear and radiological science.
Okay.
And that wide aperture will allow a student to do a number of things. Let's go through them. At Y12, you can be an engineering technician. You can be a technician working for an engineer, process engineer, doing the things that an engineer would assign to a technician, to go out in the shop floor, perhaps revise procedures, but not create procedures, as an example. Another area is one of the main drivers to this program came out of ETEC, the East Tennessee Economic Council, where Y12, Ornell, and others got together, and we have a need for radiological control technicians, RCTs, and that was one of the main drivers that started the program. So an RCT would be, working at Y12 or Ornell or UCOR.
Obviously, we want to be careful what we describe, but what would they need RCTs for? Which areas? A better question is, where did they get them before you started your program? Where do they hire those people from?
A lot lot of them are homegrown within, take years of experience, and then they take the test, and they're within the RADCON department. From my experience, within the RADCON departments, and they groom them internally. And to that point, what we're trying to do within Roane State is, especially with having a lab, is we educate the student, go through the lab operations on RCTs, and maybe have some experience from that would exempt them from the experience requirement. And the jury's still out on that because each site has its own experience requirement, but I'm hoping to have students who are very well versed in handling instruments and going out in the field to do radiation control type of things. We hold our RCT to a higher standard because they have the ability to stop operations, have a discussion with operations with what's safe and what's not, and we're going to generate a caliber of a student that can do that with this program. So RCTs, but going down the path of other positions would be we've got equipment technicians. We've got TVA that's going to have SMRs here, so we want to have technicians that could work out in the field for.
What would they do for an SMR employer?
So that would be for a commercial reactor would be like in outages. A technician would go in and generate those procedures for taking things apart, making sure items are disposed of properly and writing those procedures as an example. And then there are various other positions as well, mainly in the procedure writing, procedure generation.
The things that you're training for, you have a nuclear engineering assistant, basically a 2-year program.
That's right.
Okay, that's one job. That would be more applicable to certain kinds of things. And another title or concentration you could get, what are the options for a student? Is everything nuclear engineering assistant, everybody graduates? Or something, we have a radiology type? Not focus in the academics, but in the title.
That's another good question. It's nuclear and radiological. Okay. I consider this town a radioisotope town, especially with HIFER, the generation of radioisotopes. Let me give you an example there. I spent almost a day over at HIFER within their hot cell facility, not within the facility, but at their building there, and talk to the operators about workforce and the future needs of workforce and understanding what kind of student would need to work over there. And our students are perfect for that. To the point that within my lab, we'll have manipulator simulator to train the students to know how to do that. So yes, to your point is measuring and detection of radioactivity, but also handling high levels of radioactivity. So yes, radiological piece from a wide spectrum is part of the students who are going to come out of this program. So to that point, target development, processing the radioisotopes within the hot cells, splitting them out, packaging them, the things that they do at the hot cell facility would be part of what the students would come out. We have this other aspect called nuclear criticality safety. We have, like at Y-12, nuclear criticality safety officers who go down in the shop and make sure that operations are adhering to procedures to keep the area safe. So a technician coming out of this program could be a nuclear criticality safety officer.
Would everybody that graduates from the program be called a technician?
Not necessarily. Okay. I think it depends on their job description.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Who are the vendors? Who do you see, let's say when you get at Roane, you're putting out 30 jobs a year or 15, whatever. Who are you sending, who are calling you saying, we need more? Who's going to be the big vendors in the area?
UCOR, Y-12, and Ornell are my big customers. Yeah. And, let me mention this point. They're all on my advisory board. And so this is not like me guessing. And I met with them individually in their HR to understand their workforce needs. So my advisory board are made up with the big guys, also the, Energy Solutions, MS Technology. We've got TriSoX as part of my board. Who am I missing here? We've got.
So cleanup would be a big area.
Omega Tech. Yeah, cleanup would be absolutely.
My friends at Navarro, who are a main sponsor of my show,
absolutely.
they don't do
Navarro,
a lot of no Christmas. You know, if my grandmother lived in Hanford and I want to go see my grandma, I could go out to Hanford and work. Right? You got the same kind of skills.
That's right.
Over.
That's right.
I got you.
And so we've, yes, technicians, throughout the smaller, staff aug, and then in addition to the big guys as well. Yes, sir.
So I see it be. I mean, just I'm learning like everybody else. I think cleanup is going to be because you start talking about testing radiology. That's basically what those folks do. All of them. They're going. I mean, if you train somebody for that, and you look at a Hanford and you see plutonium, and then you come over and you see uranium and stuff, are they going to be prepared to go? Is it the equipment that they learn, or can they go in and do the same thing?
In my opinion, they're learning everything about radioisotopes, Alan, and whether it's plutonium or whether it's uranium.
We know they're different kinds.
And they'll understand the difference. In the fact that they're going to have hands-on in glove boxes and hands-on in a simulated nuclear.
What it is, sure.
They are, being at Los Alamos and consulting with them, there are some unique things of automated systems to make sure that you keep the distance from the processing of plutonium. But, I think, they can go right. It's going to be OJT on something like that.
So if they went into Los Alamos and they were involved in the pit production work or whatever,
That's
they
right.
would have your technical skills.
Absolutely.
Because that's a much more high-level sensitivity.
And from a big picture perspective, getting the crit safety, getting the nuclear criticality safety, the nuclear security, radiation protection, the health and safety, and nuclear materials control accounting, getting those disciplines right at the get-go will set the foundation for a student to go in, in any of these sites to work. And it's from my perspective.
Do you think you'll get a good distribution of both male and female students?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of folks are surprised at with the number of females that we have.
I would think so.
Within the program on the first cohort. So we have 3.
I've had 300 interns over the years, probably a pretty equal mix. I'm sending. If I pick my 4 or 5 best, smartest, most applicable interns, I hate to make judgments on kids, but people that went on to higher rank, 4 to 5 would be women. I mean, they just focus, are dedicated. You got a lot of abilities there. I mean, I would think so. That's it. That is good. I think there's a potential for students to get an opportunity. It's another opportunity not to go work for $35,000. You get this, you go. You're going to be more in that. And I'm. This is me, not them talking. But $60,000 to $80,000.
Absolutely, 60 to 80 is what we're
coming out of the gate.
Yes, sir.
Out of the gate. That's a livable wage.
Yeah.
At least this year.
Yeah.
It is. Let's take a short break, and we'll be right back.
America runs on power, and for nuclear power, we need enriched uranium, but almost all of it comes from overseas. In 2019, the Trump administration took action, working with Centrus to build the first new American-owned uranium enrichment plant in 70 years. And now, Centrus is ready to expand to meet our nuclear power and military needs, free from dependence on foreign suppliers. Centrus, American technology built by American workers.
From Oak Ridge, Tennessee, IB3 Global Solutions conducts operations around the world to enhance the U.S. national security posture and minimize radiological and nuclear threats. IB3 Global Solutions. Mission first.
Feeling overwhelmed with your business finances? At P&L Business Services, we handle all your bookkeeping, payroll, and tax needs. From federal tax returns to QuickBooks training, we've got you covered. With over 25 years of experience, we provide customized packages to fit your business. Focus on what you love most, building your business. Let us take care of the rest. Call 865-294-4792. P&L Business Services, empowering you to grow your business.
This is Joe Heckman, President of Waste Management at Energy Solutions. Nuclear power is on the rise. Energy Solutions is part of this transition and part of the solution, delivering comprehensive services and assets that support the entire nuclear life cycle. Energy Solutions is protecting and preserving the environment for generations to come.
At Navarro, we partner with our clients to advance clean energy and deliver effective solutions for complex challenges in the nuclear and environmental fields.
just talking about different opportunities during the break and just a lot of stuff, rad exposure over the years and stuff. But we're going to go to a slide or two here and just let Joe tell you what we're basically talking about in pictures. So go ahead.
Yeah, Alan, thanks. Just to recap here, you know, the Roane State started this 2-year program basically last year. It got going in full swing. It's open. You know, students can apply at Roane State and get injected to the system, and so we're pretty proud of it. You can go onto the Roane State website, go to programs, go to engineering and technology, and click on that nuclear technology, and it's there. But I wanted to mention a couple things on this slide here, which is we do offer the program, you know, like I said, to the student that's doing it with the middle college and a high school student can get their 2-year nuclear degree at the same time they can get their high school degree. And a couple other things that we're doing, too, is that we're going to offer the week of August the 4th a 1-week certificate in nuclear. This is for, you know, students who have graduated in the chemical technology, engineering technology program, who are, you know, interested in nuclear. They have the chemical technology program, but they want to get exposed to the nuclear side of the house, or like engineers who are not nuclear engineers that have first started working in the various facilities to get a lot of things that they don't know into a certificate and that program. And then in addition to that, which is not on the slide, is that we're doing 3 modules for TCAT as well. We're going in, spending 3 days with TCAT, you know, like a maintenance technician.
Define that acronym for everybody, TCAT.
Gosh, Alan, you catch me off guard. It's the Tennessee, you catch me off guard.
What is it? Do you know what they do?
The TCAT is the 1-year program. TCAT.
Okay, That's all. That's good. TCAT.
Applied Technology, and it'll come to me in a minute.
That's all right.
They're the 1-year program that welders and maintenance technicians.
Yeah, I know the program.
And you know, they're under TVR as well. So they're very strong program, great partner to us at the community college level. And what we're doing is we're going in as the as subject matter experts in nuclear and spending 3 days with them, full days, and teaching them some basics in nuclear if some of those technicians would want to come to work in Oak Ridge. And so we're doing that. And then I wanted to comment also on the plans for matriculation to University of Tennessee Tech and UTK. As soon as we get a couple of years under our belt with the program, our courses will matriculate to the 4-year program down the road. A couple of other things, TBR has approved the program. Like I said, our first core is 9 students. The curriculum is rock solid, very confident in our curriculum that we've established for the first semester. We're working on the second semester now. And then our nuclear operations lab is really pretty awesome. We've got a lot of attention, attention to our nuclear operations lab. The glove boxes that we've ordered for the nuclear operations
That's the
lab,
glove box up in the middle left up there. It looks like a washing machine with 2 eyes.
That's exactly right. They're nuclear-grade glove boxes, Alan. They're going to be connected, exhaust to the outdoors. They'll be backfilled with nitrogen. They have a vacuum pump on it. And the reason for that is if we want the students to work the discipline procedures within the nuclear operations lab. And that, a student coming out working those procedures will have that acumen, especially working at Y12 at UPF, starting out there. So a couple other things there. UTK donated their commercial reactor simulator. That's down there on the bottom, a little bit to the right there. We'll teach, we're going to absolutely teach the fundamentals in commercial reactor power generation and use that simulator to do that. We have some fume hoods. We have a vault that looks like a uranium storage vault, and that's important because there's some nuclear criticality safety aspects of that and nuclear security aspects that we would teach as part of that. Rady, our robot, will have 2 of those, 2 quadrupeds.
That's our guy down in the corner, right?
That's right.
Do you give them names?
Yeah, we give
I got to give them names.
So we're the Raiders, so that's Rady.
Who? Reagan?
Rady.
Rady, R-A-D-Y,
right.
rock radio.
R-A-I-D-Y, that's right. And so we're, after the Raiders, we call them radium. It's a little bit of play on words, too, for radiation, isn't it?
I thought so, yeah.
So Rady, we've been doing a lot of promoting of the program with Rady, but the whole point is of having the quadruped was me spending a lot of time at Ornell's radiation detection department. When I was over there, they have 2 Boston Dynamic quadrupeds, and they use those to go out and do remote radiation detection. And I said, I want quadrupeds as part of this program so we can do the same thing. The only difference with this program is that we'll use simulated radiation detection equipment and simulated radiation sources. In other words, I can put these transmitters out in the field, outside, or in my lab, and it would emit radiation, but it's simulated. And so I use simulated detection equipment that looks like real detection equipment.
Waves, okay.
And that way the student gets the feel of the monitors going off, and the sound, the amount of radiation, and they would, react, to that radiation detection when I send to do that. So we have a lot of variants of that. We're going to put simulated radiation detection equipment on Rady, but we also have, you can barely see it, but in that center picture is a mannequin back there. His name's Freddie.
Freddie.
Yeah, and so Freddie back there is it's a company, Teletrix. They make the simulated radiation detection equipment. And so what we do there is that we use simulated simulated radiation detection equipment that uses AR and VR technologies to teach the student to do proper frisking, because we don't want students to do what we call turbo frisking, because they can miss if a person has any outside contamination. So I can assign some radioactivity to Freddie anywhere on its torso or body, and then the student's job is to find that radioactivity in a simulated manner.
My father was from the days when they took you, put you in the thing, and they just washed you down. You came out of something, they would powder you, they would do whatever. You've seen it in movies, but my father went through that in the 40s and some of that stuff, and that's been replaced, I guess, by now.
Yeah, we're a little bit more sophisticated out today. I mean, we wear a lot of PPE. We make sure that we use principles like ALARA, lowest reasonably achievable, which means we make sure that people not in areas they don't need to be when they're working around radioactivity, and so we just know what kind of controls we have today.
Do they go out? Let's take plutonium. Let's take Los Alamos. You brought it up, and there's some kind of event, accident, and somehow there's a little bit of a release, or maybe not a controlled release. No, not mean control. I mean they get it under control. What's the protocol for a technician? What kind of things do you face? Do you alert people? They read it on their instrument and they say this is a little bit too high or a lot too high, and what do they do from there? You're training people.
So it depends.
Okay.
If you have some contamination, which is radioactivity where it's not supposed to be, then you have a procedural protocol to notify radiation protection. Radiation protection will come down and take measurements on you. There might be a bioassay component of that, which is, Alan, I need for you to take, containers home and bring it back so they can do some analysis on that. If it's higher levels of radiation, we scale that up to some more medical analysis of the person who was exposed to that radiation. And then if it's even higher than that, if it becomes a criticality where we have a lot of radiation, then a lot of alarms will go off, and we get trained over and over and every year how to evacuate an area. If they're
exposed to this training?
Yes, we will have scenarios within this program. Don't want to let a whole lot of
contamination.
Simulate a criticality to where they all have to evacuate. And so what we've done is, getting down to the details, is that we've had a local electrical contractor come in and install our cameras, install our alarm points, install what we call a central alarm station, to where when alarms go off, either whether it's a safety alarm on crit safety or whether it's a nuclear security alarm, then for crit safety, if there's a criticality, a howler will go off. We're not going to alert the whole building, but we'll alert this area so that the students will learn how to evacuate. So safety is a big part of this program.
I'm seeing that.
And learning about PPE, learning about making sure they don't contaminate their face, learning how to take care of themselves.
Let's go to an extreme. This is what people
sir.
know in the world. We don't know the small details, et cetera, et cetera. So I was in graduate school when 3 Mile Island happened, and it's so funny because the movie that 6 months earlier said it could render an area of western Pennsylvania, and I'm thinking that was prophetic. But anyway, so you go through all this, and now they're just not going to reopen it. They've obviously solved all the crisis, et cetera, et cetera. But I guess when I think about it, I think if you get a situation, not as extreme as a rod being exposed, but you get an extreme that's critical and health threatening, et cetera, et cetera. Are your people respond to that level to be able to participate some?
As far as on the
like Joe, go measure outside around the building to see if there's anything out there.
Yes,
they could.
Yeah, absolutely. A technician out of our program could work for an emergency management organization to go out and respond to an area where you had a radiological dispersal device that's gone off, like something blew up. Yeah. And so these students who are going to be educated on radiation detection equipment can be part of those teams to go out and use that equipment to make those assessments. Okay. And one thing we didn't talk about, Alan's medical field.
Yeah.
And so the
medical radioisotopes.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Radioisotopes that are used in the medical field. A student could be, not a rad tech, but working in the area to take care of the management of those radioisotopes, for example, in the high school.
One other area that interests me, and I know you have your own programs and these things probably too, but I remember Austin Peay got ahead of the game a little bit about 10, 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. But the world, is there a role of robotics? You have one, but how does... Now, I know there's robots involved because you can't send people in certain areas. Mm-hmm. But in robotics, the interaction with those robots, the reading of the material, orchestration, coordination, do your people have any interaction with the robotics like that?
Yeah, so taking a step back for Roane State, we have our megatronics program. We look at our, technical programs, including our chemical engineering technology program, our megatronics program, which consists of a lot of robotics.
And that's within what department? Yours?
It's in various. Well, yes. Our math and science department has the megatronics, the chemical engineering technology department, and our program, and then my nuclear program. And our cyber program as well. So, yes, it's all housed under our dean.
I was impressed with that. Me and Teresa went over that cyber program. It's pretty impressive.
It is impressive, absolutely.
My friends that are managers and presidents and CEOs of energy companies say, get your kid into cyber. Get your kid into cyber.
We consider all those programs, our environmental health and our project management is our big Power 6. I don't know if they mentioned that too, but that's our. Roane State is known for their medical program.
Yeah,
we're going to be known for our Power 6, which is our project management, which is our cyber program, our environmental health program, our nuclear program, our chemical program, and megatronics. Those
you
Power
teach
6.
them,
and so
program management's huge in our
business.
It is
huge.
Every plant you go to, but there's.
You may want to do a segment on program management.
Yeah,
we have, the gentleman that does our program management. He's on loan from us under Ornell's payroll, but he runs that program. So you may want to do a segment.
A lot of program managers. I mean, it's just a big deal. I mean, when you look around and the question, like if I'm interacting with CNS or interacting with Ornell, the question is, who's the program manager? Who's the officer? I mean, program management is a science. I mean,
absolutely.
I've taken some courses on it, even though I'm not directly involved. It's just business management.
Project and program management. And so going back to your question, my point is megatronics courses are elective to the nuclear program.
Oh, I got you.
And so we want to make sure we have students that understand some programming, some coding, understand how to program that quadruped, understand about electricity, because if we're going to have technicians coming out of this program that has that soft skills, we want to have them to have some of that, as far as the megatronics program through those electives. Yeah. So robotics is part of an elective that they can take.
Okay,
so
we're going to take a break, another one, and we'll be back in 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll talk more about Roane State's nuclear program.
America runs on power, and for nuclear power, we need enriched uranium, but almost all of it comes from overseas. In 2019, the Trump administration took action, working with Centrus to build the first new American-owned uranium enrichment plant in 70 years. And now, Centrus is ready to expand to meet our nuclear power and military needs, free from dependence on foreign suppliers. Centrus, American technology built by American workers.
From Oak Ridge, Tennessee, ID3 Global Solutions conducts operations around the world to enhance the U.S. national security posture and minimize radiological and nuclear threats. ID3 Global Solutions. Mission first.
Feeling overwhelmed with your business finances? At P&L Business Services, we handle all your bookkeeping, payroll, and tax needs. From federal tax returns to QuickBooks training, we've got you covered. With over 25 years of experience, we provide customized packages to fit your business. Focus on what you love most, building your business. Let us take care of the rest. Call 865-294-4792. P&L Business Services, empowering you to grow your business.
This is Joe Heckman, President of Waste Management at Energy Solutions. Nuclear power is on the rise. Energy Solutions is part of this transition and part of the solution, delivering comprehensive services and assets that support the entire nuclear life cycle. Energy Solutions is protecting and preserving the environment for generations to come.
At Navarro, we partner with our clients to advance clean energy and deliver effective solutions for complex challenges in the nuclear and environmental fields.
Welcome back to Between the Lines. We're doing our energy series, and this is segment number 4. And they may mix and match on the weeks, but it's the 4th one we've taped and gone over. And this is the most challenging for me because it's a lot of stuff I don't know a lot about. And a lot of times I'll be on the show throughout the year, and I'll bring shows on that I know. But I'm learning a lot today, and I think everybody out there can learn a lot. And get to your high schools, get to people, let them know that this program exists and that you need to be reaching out to Roane State about their nuclear engineering program. All right, Joe, what do we got next?
Yeah, so I'm just going to clean up a little bit what we were talking about earlier. It's Tennessee College of Applied Technology. You know, they're a peer program to ours. You know, I just want to make sure we clear that up. Okay. But drilling down a little bit details to our courses here. What we did at Roane State to create the program is that we intersected our chemical engineering technology, some courses from our chemical engineering technology program. We intersected some environmental health program courses with the prerequisites, and we added 4 new robust nuclear courses. And I just want to go over those.
Let's talk about those courses.
Yeah, so the 1510 course, that's the one we just finished. That one looks like UTK's NE200 course. It has, anywhere from the splitting of the atom to the equations, balancing of the energy to the safety disciplines that I've already mentioned like many times, crit safety, radiation protection, nuclear security, health physics, and we put all of those into the classroom. History of the Manhattan Project, that's a big deal here. We want the students to understand, the history, understand naval reactors.
Let me throw in something here.
Yes,
I've talked about this on the other
shows.
Yeah, please do. The Secretary, Chris Wright, wants to talk about a new Manhattan Project.
2.0. 2.0,
that's great. And I think having eaten dinner with him and done some stuff, I think his motivation is not just on a re-energizing of the nuclear world and America's role in it, but I think it's about delivering stuff on a timely schedule. Mm-hmm. We built 11 processing plants in Y-12 area, right, the 26-mile radius, all 3 plants. We built all of that within 19 months.
That's right.
Now it takes us 3 years to go over a design project and redraw it 4 times, not to mention specific projects. But, so I think we need to push in not just education, but we need to push all the way across the board. And I think you mentioned Manhattan Project. I think that kind of energy and that kind of schedule and that delivery is going to take a different mindset. Yeah. We're going to have to think production. We're going to have to think going. And we're just not going to have the leisure we've had in the past. I think Chuck said that, Congressman said on a show a couple weeks ago, he said, Bottom line is, we just shut down in the 90s after the peace treaty. We just said we don't need this anymore. We're going away, and we didn't put the emphasis on that kind of stuff that Russia and China and others have done. I threw that in on the Manhattan Project just so our listeners will understand that we're going to need more and more of this if we're going to meet those challenges. Right,
and if I may just inject an opinion here.
Yes, please.
Alan, is that, I worked on naval reactors over the years, and one of the best things I think we did to reduce cost is remove the bureaucracy between the design lab and the manufacturer, and we closed that gap by reducing the risk of making a decision on a technical requirement. For example, we got together, we worked it out between us, and we got down to what the real reason is why we have a requirement. I would like to see the regulators on the NRC side and the DOE close that gap a little bit, reduce the cooks in the kitchen, get down to...
We call it referees. Me and Congressman Officer said we don't need 7 referees at a basketball game. We need 2 or 3.
That's right.
And we need to get the thing moving.
Exactly.
But they're paid to deliberate, and that's what they do. And, they had he had a press conference last month at NRC, and he said they're going to speed things up.
Yeah,
and so that's the charge.
And this is no disrespect to our, these agencies at all, but, this is, kind of that process, what I call process balanced design, which is working together to that specific requirement and being right there at the table. Do we really need this requirement? And how can we do it with the technologies that we have today instead of adding on things we don't need? And so I think there are ways of getting, there, Alan, from my perspective. Been around the block a little bit. So that going down to my slide here on 2510, the second course, which will be coming up in the fall, that one's going to be concentrating a lot in radiation measurements. Having the students looking at radiation spectra on the computer screen.
General, let's go back to slide 5, please.
There you go. Yeah, there we go. Sci-fi. There we go.
Thank you.
And so the 2510 will be the radiation detection measurement, with the students will be doing calculations and analysis on.
So when you say a second course, are they like, what's the word, block courses, like that's the focus of the entire fall curriculum, or you say second course? So the course is the whole semester.
Yeah. So jump to the next slide. So when
slide. Yeah. Is that it?
Well, the slide 6.
So jump to the next one. Yeah, we didn't tell them about that, remember?
Yeah.
What's it look like?
Yeah. So to answer your question, Alan, I was just going to jump to this. When you go to the course map, this is probably a lot small to look at.
That's okay.
It's made up of the prerequisite courses.
But you can go to the website, right?
And go to the website and go to this page right here and click on that, and you could see the courses that make up the program, including your prerequisites, your electives. And my point is, I think I'm answering your question, is that the nuclear courses are spread out through the curriculum at strategic points. And because you've got prerequisites there. We want to have them to have their math before they have the first course, because there are the equations that they have to take.
Sure.
And so what I'm talking about here is the courses that we're creating that are new, that's giving the student the skill sets in order to work at places like Ornell, Y12, UCOR, and the other places. So the second courses are heavily weighted in the radiation detection and measurement, and include spectra, which I mentioned. And then the last course is a capstone course, which the students will be working on a project that they'll eventually present to my advisory board and to me, what problem that they resolve or what practical application that they did that has direct, and now I want to underline direct association with something that goes on and with our industry partners. It could be, improving the training at UCOR on using the Teletrix simulated radiation detection equipment by doing this particular activity, for example, or even the quadrupeds itself. Sending the quadruped out in the field and detecting radioactivity on simulated, the simulated radioactivity like on drums and materials that are sitting out in the field. So the last course will be, having the alarms. I mentioned that before. The students will be working on their procedures and their discipline procedures, repackaging materials, filling out the paperwork, and then an alarm goes off, and then they'll need to know what to do when they do that.
That's exposure to a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. And then having that radiological technician, or what we call RADCON 1 and RADCON 2 training, they'll know how to, put on their PPE, don on and don off their PPE.
Which is what?
Their yellow coats, their booties, and all the things.
They need to learn how to do it.
And let me mention a small thing. This is my badge right here for my program. All of my students are required to wear their badge.
Just like they would at Y12.
Exactly. So they have their Roane State badge here, their badge holder. They have their Prox card for access of the lab. And Ornell liked this so much that they donated TLDs. These are our thermal detectors here for radioactivity in the area. They're simulated. But the students will get marked off if they don't have their badge and their TLD in the area. So we're kind of conditioning our students to make sure that they have their badges. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a smart move.
And so
that may be the hardest thing to teach.
When you go to my lab at Roane State, you'll see a locker for cell phones. And so they'll have to put their cell phone in the cell phone locker.
Anybody knows you can't call behind the gate, right?
That's exactly right. So when they go into the my lab's what we call a simulated MAA, which is a material access area.
Sure.
So when they go in, they have a staging area, which is a sally port. We have to make sure there's no contraband. Go into the change area, change into their PPE, and then cross over what we call the yellow and magenta line, which would be the radiological control area. It's all simulated, but it's emulating that what you would find. And so wearing the badge, locking up your cell phone. We had to think a little further than at Roane State because students have their backpacks too. So we bought them a set of lockers, and so they'll lock up their their stuff in their lockers. Or if we have visitors, we'll make them lock up their cell phones.
Technically, anything can contaminate a lab.
Yeah,
you got to teach them keep stuff out.
That's right, keep stuff out. Yeah, absolutely. You could contaminate the good stuff in there.
There you go.
So back to the going backwards a little bit. If we could put slide 3 back up now.
Back to 3. There it is.
And
quick.
So just to recap some of the good stuff that we'll be teaching within the program, the nuclear energy, nuclear science, about power plants. And one thing I failed to mention, Alan, is that partnerships have been completely awesome with this program. UT came out of the woodwork. I want to compliment Dr. Worth, Dr. Wes Hines, current director, Dr. Brian Worth, Dr. Wes Hines previously. They both want to see Roane State's program to succeed to the point of providing professors, which I know since I worked there, and I can call them up and ask them a question. I've included them in my teams for curriculum design. And then also retired Dr. Bel Upadhyay's come in, and I'm weak in commercial reactors. Having him come in and do the commercial reactor lectures for me have been completely awesome, and we've capitalized on that partnership.
It's a growing field.
Yep, and so I don't know everything about nuclear, so we've been bringing in some subject matter experts to assist me in some of the disciplines, and that's been fantastic as well.
Commercial reactors are relegated to low HALEU, right? They can't have in reality.
They can't greater than 19.
I always thought that the expansion of reactors was. I'm an amateur, but that was a higher safety risk, was a thing. But it's really, when you keep it on the low end, it's not.
Well, you have a proliferation risk.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So you have the bad guys want to get a hold of that. Yeah, bad guys want to get a hold of that higher enriched uranium. So we keep it lower.
But they can't access that very easily.
And there's an international treaty. And there's an international treaty we have to adhere to that we don't do that.
Yeah.
The exception is a naval reactors program, but that's the exception. It's a military use.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Very interesting.
And just getting a little bit more details, we concentrate on radiation protection and understanding, instruments. We already talked about all that, but just making sure that I'm covering, the list of things that we're covering in the program. Health physics, making sure, going back to
a lot of friends, when I was a kid, their parents worked in health physics. I didn't understand what it meant, but that's okay.
just making sure that we know and understand the body and its relationship with radioactivity. That's where it's about there.
And that's important in those facilities.
Yep.
Let me. We're going to take a break in a minute, but I want to come back and talk to you about reactors a little bit off of your curriculum, but a little bit onto your expertise of 30 years. Mm-hmm. And we'll come back and talk about that. Tell us the deadlines on registration. When should a person apply to be in your program? When is it too late? Your first graduating class, I presume, will be the spring of 26.
Yes, sir. Spring of 26.
So tell us a little bit about that. What are they got to get accepted into Roane State first.
That's right. Go to the website. There will be a sign.
What is the website?
Yeah, the roanestate.edu.
Do you have one for your own department?
Yes. So
let's get the engineering one up there.
Yeah. Go to Roane State. We'll walk through that. Can you pull up the web there on Roane State?
It'll take a few minutes for that. www.roanestate.edu.
And so while we're doing that,
okay.
So student. One of the things I make a point of doing, Alan, is meeting with every single student and actually go through this slide presentation.
Right.
And so I want to make sure I'm answering all their questions about job opportunities, salary expectations, what they were expecting in the classroom, what kind of courses they're taking. When the courses are offered, because we've got one student who's currently working, and she has to make up her time. We want to make sure the student understands the range of times when the courses are offered, and so once they're met with me, they can go to the website and go to One Stop and start the process of understanding what the application process is. They'll get assigned a success coach. Success coach will work with them on their first year's curriculum. After the first year, I get them as the advisor because they're well into the system. Everything is pretty much fast-paced and pretty straightforward on application process. The important thing to me is I meet with the students before they're in their decision making period.
That's something you need to do. Absolutely,
right.
Make sure that that's something they really want to do.
And something I mentioned also is that this upcoming semester, it looks like that we'll increase our enrollment from 9 to about 10 to 12 students. Good. So we're moving right along.
That's what you got to do. And if you go any faster, it's kind of a risk.
Yeah, right. That's exactly right. It's a gradual process, right?
Well, because then you got to move everything else around them faster.
That's right.
And that gets to be a problem. Let's take one more break, Chandler, and we'll come right back.
America runs on power, and for nuclear power, we need enriched uranium, but almost all of it comes from overseas. In 2019, the Trump administration took action, working with Centrus to build the first new American-owned uranium enrichment plant in 70 years. And now, Centrus is ready to expand to meet our nuclear power and military needs, free from dependence on foreign suppliers. Centrus, American technology built by American workers.
From Oak Ridge, Tennessee, IB3 Global Solutions conducts operations around the world to enhance the U.S. national security posture and minimize radiological and nuclear threats. IB3 Global Solutions. Mission first.
Feeling overwhelmed with your business finances? At P&L Business Services, we handle all your bookkeeping, payroll, and tax needs. From federal tax returns to QuickBooks training, we've got you covered. With over 25 years of experience, we provide customized packages to fit your business. Focus on what you love most, building your business. Let us take care of the rest. Call 865-294-4792. P&L Business Services, empowering you to grow your business.
This is Joe Heckman, President of Waste Management at Energy Solutions. Nuclear power is on the rise. Energy Solutions is part of this transition and part of the solution, delivering comprehensive services and assets that support the entire nuclear life cycle. Energy Solutions is protecting and preserving the environment for generations to come.
At Navarro, we partner with our clients to advance clean energy and deliver effective solutions for complex challenges in the nuclear and environmental fields.
Okay, we're back, and we're talking again. We're still talking with Joe, and we're talking about Roane Stage program. But the last 6 or 7 minutes, we're gonna shift off a little bit. I do a lot of work, and you have in your career in NSA and in the Department of Energy. And you look at the nominees, you look at the direction, and it's funny because almost every military person I see is an admiral, not a general. I mean, somebody coming out of the Navy. Admiral Papano is up now, contrary to what I said. Admiral Papano's up now, and others. Why is the Navy so important in all of this? You did work with the Navy for years.
Yeah, so that's a great question, Alan. You know, I'm going to be biased toward the Navy.
That's okay. That's what I want you to do.
Yeah, exactly. And so because of my experience working on the Naval Reactors program, building reactors for the Navy, I think that you know, you've versatility. You know, the president, you know, and his cabinet down to the military has the ability to deploy ships where we need them to be. You know, when there's a conflict, you'll see a aircraft carrier and its a support group, you know, right there on it. You know, no disrespect to the other disciplines, but I think the Navy provides that versatility. And then you add the nuclear piece, which is reliability. And you have extremely reliable nuclear reactors with the Naval Reactors program, and the quality control, the rigor, the robustness to all those reactors.
So the management that they within the Navy kind of prepares them to be ready to help lead nuclear stuff in all areas, you think?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's some pretty impressive admirals who have done some work in that
absolutely.
area. You know, it's funny, real quick story. Admiral Rickover, historic. His secretary, young Secretary of Defense, one of a pool of 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever at the time when they were running everything in the Navy, later in life became mine when I was in Pittsburgh as a vice president of a very small company and warehouse, et cetera, and I used to tease her all the time, you know, about me and Rickover being, and she used to look at me and she would say, "You're no Rickover."
Right.
I used to say, I get that, I got that. And doesn't mean to mean, just different kinds of people, you know, but
you know,
I thought well of him.
Just commenting on that, I'm no Rickover either, and I didn't meet the gentleman. However, the facility that I worked at was one of his particular facilities that he paid attention to, and back when I started my career, which is white shirts and ties every day, you know, that I put into my classroom, you know, instilling that organizational commitment, you know, organizational allegiance, you know, and he was big on that. Commitment was another one. Accountability, making sure that we have that continuous unease in the nuclear industry, that we call out something as we see it, you know, and not be reserved. And, you know, just be open and frank, you know, with working in a nuclear facility is extremely important. And those aspects of Admiral Ricko, you know, I talk about what I call a nuclear culture. I actually call it integrated nuclear culture, which includes the safety, safeguards, security, and quality, as all of that surrounded as an integrated.
And I was glad to see him come to light. President Carter obviously was a nuclear engineer.
Oh, he was.
And he was in Rickover's group, and,
he was.
He would talk a lot about it, and very bright man. And you know, and of course, and then my secretary was in that group too, and it just was, I mean, just an impressive group of people. Every time I quote, and I think I quoted this to Congressman, but Admiral Halsey, I always quote Admiral Halsey as saying there are no extraordinary men. They're just ordinary men who rise to extraordinary challenges, and that's kind of the mentality of that whole set that was just outstanding. We got about 2 or 3 minutes left. What do you want to say?
You know, I invite anybody to come to my program, Alan. I think, you know, we've got a robust new 2-year program. If you're looking for, you know, reskilling your degrees or don't have a degree, come talk to me, and we'll talk about the
Where'd you get
program.
your PhD? I meant to ask you that.
University of Tennessee.
Okay, and your master's, and you said Old Dominion. Where'd you go for your master's?
I did it while I was at BWXT, and that's George Washington University.
Okay, I know it well. Okay, good schools all the way down the line,
So GW and then University of Tennessee. And I got my PhD late.
That's okay.
I was 50. So that's the other thing. I encourage everybody to be a continuous learner, and it's never too late.
I joke all the time. I have one degree, a bachelor's degree, and I have 90 graduate hours. which is assimilating to 3 degrees or 3 masters. I just kept going to school all the time. Didn't care about the I just wanted to learn, and you got to do that, and it helps a great deal. We got about 1 minute left. I want to thank Roane State. I went down and met with them. I was so impressed with this program. There's a lot of chatter about building and jobs, but only a few people have the opportunity to educate our young people and to provide people. And for you grandparents and parents, that means a lot of them get a chance to stay in the area and work here.
Yeah.
And there's great opportunities.
Absolutely.
And with your great experience, I think you'll have the dialogue with these companies. And I can see groups like UCOR and others really taking advantage of this because they need that entry level and that kind of stuff. I think it reduces what they have to do on site, that you've got them more prepared when they come, right?
Yeah, agreed.
That's it. Hey, thanks so much. We'll see you next week with another show of Between the Lines.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Joe. I appreciate everything you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.